Hello everybody and welcome back to The Conversation. As you can tell by the title, we have finally reached episode 6, which is the last episode of season 1. You know the expression, saving the best for the last. I think that's true in this case because of maybe next to the first episode in this particular season, this really was outstanding writing, outstanding acting, and outstanding directing. Let's jump into it. So this episode opens up with the Queen arriving at the school. Clearly she's going to come talk to her son directly about this. And she's met by the headmistress who makes the comment to her, "Oh, ma'am, I'm so sorry. I don't know how this could have happened at this school." Oh, nonsense. You've got a school that's co-ed, open door policy to the dormitories, all these teenagers with their hormones pumping, and you can't imagine how this could happen. Stop it. So I thought that was really silly. Silly on the headmistress's part. Still good writing, but silly on the headmistress's part. And then the headmistress says, well, you know, we're preparing to issue a statement condemning this. And the Queen cuts her off immediately and says, you'll condemn nothing until I tell you to do so. Very interesting. The Queen is literally stopping a condemnation of what happened. Because I think to her, it's not the relationship that needs to be condemned. I think really what we're talking about is the video being made that should be condemned. So I don't think the Queen wants, no, there's going to be no public condemnation unless and until I say so. So the Queen goes into Wilhelm's bedroom, and first thing he says is, "Mom, you know, I'm sorry, Mama." I loved the directing in this scene because I love when the Queen kicks off her shoes, kind of kicks him up underneath the desk, and then sits down on the bed next to her son. Look at her expression. There is no anger. There is no disappointment. I don't think she gives a flip that her son has been in this relationship with Simon. I have said in previous videos that I remain convinced that the Queen knows her son's, or at least has an indication of her son's orientation and doesn't care. That's not the issue for her. The issue for her is the succession of the throne. That's what her issue is. I think she gives us a major clue right here in this very scene when he apologizes and says, "I'm sorry, Mama," and she says, "I don't want you seeing Simon for the time being. Let's solve this first." She's saying right there, I don't care. She says, "I don't want you seeing Simon for the time being." She's not saying I don't want you to see him or I don't want you to be with him. That's not what she said. She said we need to solve this problem first. And I think for her, yeah, there's a scandal with the video, but I think the problem for her is the succession of the throne. That is what's in her mind, not her son's orientation. So in this scene where she kicks off the shoes, you can see her, by her expression, she's not angry. In this scene, yeah, she's still wearing the crown, but she's still his mother and she still cares that her son is hurting. Kudos to the Queen. I think we all recognize that the relationship between Wilhelm and August is basically driving right off the cliff like Thelma and Louise. But if ever there was a spot where they were going to be able to stop that progress and actually try to repair or mend the rift between them, this was that spot. Unfortunately, August being August, yeah. So we have the scene where Wilhelm is in his room and August knocks on the door. You heard me right, knocks on the door. We made such a big deal in the previous videos about the fact that August would just walk into the room and show no respect whatsoever by knocking, but in this case, he actually knocked on the door. He brings dinner to Wilhelm, and he has a very sympathetic face and a very sympathetic tone, and he's trying, I guess, in his own way to comfort Wilhelm, and he makes sure that Wilhelm understands that, man, I'm here for you. For, you know, when things move forward and you have the crown, he doesn't say it this way, these are my words, but, you know, I'm going to be there to help you. And I think what in his mind August is trying to do is set himself up as a chief of staff or a future gatekeeper to the king. Obviously, that's going to give him an immense political power and position. So being the weasel that he is, I think that's really what he's trying to do. I don't think he really cares about Wilhelm, and there's a reason I say that I'll come to in a moment. But in this scene, Wilhelm takes the initiative to apologize to August, and he says, I apologize for telling everybody about your financial situation. Maybe that wasn't the best move. I just want you to know I'm sorry about that. And August kind of brushes it off. And that was the missed opportunity, because if Wilhelm's trying to meet him halfway and say, I'm sorry for having handled things the way I did, even though in the end it helped August, this was the moment for August to tell Wilhelm, I made a mistake too, and I need to apologize now. He should have come out and just said, I'm the one that put the video out. Because at this point, things could have been fixed. Things could have been repaired. There could have been some teamwork here, and quite frankly, they could have together protected the family. It's no surprise, if you're familiar with at least American politics, it's never the crime that's committed. It's never the affair that's had that's the problem. It's always the cover-up. It's always the lying to protect yourself. That's where people get in trouble. That is true in criminal law as well. Often it's not the original crime that's going to get you in so much trouble. It's the lying and the covering it up. Often, if people would just come forward and own their mistakes, show some contrition, make an apology, yeah, there are still going to be consequences, but they're not going to be anywhere near as severe as what's going to come if you continue to deny and continue to lie. So again, this was an opportunity that August probably could have repaired the relationship and failed to do so. I am convinced that August was not absolutely sure that he wanted to post that video. I'm just not sure that he wanted to do that, and I said that in the last video. He was hemming and hawing. And I think part of the problem was that there was a political element to what he was doing. I don't think he was doing it because he found out that Wilhelm is gay or bisexual or whatever he is, and I don't think we need to put a label on it. But when Wilhelm is saying, I don't know what I'm doing, and I can't do this as well as Eric did, and I don't know what Eric would do or what Eric would want from me or what advice Eric would give me, again, my words, not Wilhelm's. I think that August says something very important here. Eric would have wanted you to be yourself. And I think that was excellent advice. I think that's the advice that Wilhelm should have taken. August doesn't often give good advice. Here, I think he did. And by saying, I think you should just be yourself, without him coming out and saying it, I think what he's saying is, if you're gay, you're gay. If you're in a relationship with Simon, you're in a relationship with Simon. It is what it is. I think that's what he was trying to say. I don't have any definitive evidence one way or the other. But there is that scene with August and Sarah when they're in August's bedroom that makes me think there's always a motive. There's always something else going on behind August's actions and his words. So now we're in the room, in Wilhelm's room again with Simon and Wilhelm, and they're talking about the fact that Wilhelm has been asked to go onto television and say, that wasn't me in the video. And Simon tells him, you can say what you want to say. They can't make you say something. And, you're brave. I have faith in you. I love the fact that at that point, Wilhelm was like, oh crap, my mother's coming. We need to go meet her. So they get ready and they hurry out the room. Now, I think it's interesting that you say, oh crap, I forgot my mother's coming. She's the queen. Most people don't forget the queen is coming. I mean, it's a big deal to them. For him, it's just mama. And I love the fact that when they come out of the dormitory, the queen was there already, and now the queen is face to face with Simon. Again, kudos to the queen. I am convinced she's not angry by the relationship. She walks over to Simon and extends her hand in greeting. Now, normally, you have to go to the queen and be presented to the queen. But here, she's the one walking over to him. It is her that extends her hand and says hello. I love the awkwardness of Simon in not sure how he's supposed to react in this situation. And the fact that he calls her His Majesty and gives a short bow. And then quickly excuses himself, because most people that meet the queen, especially for the first time, they're going to meet her in a very formal setting. They're going to know that it's going to happen, and they have time to prepare for it. In this instance, he walks out a door and, oh crap, the queen is standing right in front of me. I just love that scene. I thought it was very awkward, but it was supposed to be awkward. So kudos to the writers and the director. That leads us into the scene where the queen and Wilhelm are riding in the limousine back to the castle in order to film this interview that's going to be broadcast on Swedish television. And Wilhelm takes this opportunity to speak to his mother directly about his relationship, and he says, I want a normal life. I want to be with Simon. I don't see why I can't be in a relationship with him. And there's a couple things that jump out at me here. One of the first things is the fact that he uses the words normal relationship and I want to be in a relationship with him in the same conversation, because today in Europe, particularly in Sweden and Middle and Northern Europe, that kind of relationship is considered normal. And so he doesn't feel the need to explain to the Queen the normalcy of it. Normalcy or normalcy? Normalcy. I'm not sure which, I don't know which word it is.
Sure.
Irrelevant. Fact is, he sees that kind of relationship as completely normal. And I go back to things I've said before in other videos where look around at his classmates. Nobody else gives a damn. You have that one scene where the girls are in the library are joking about, or maybe not joking, about the fact that at this point, Simon and Wilhelm are going to have to find a surrogate mother to raise their child, blah, 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 blah. And one girl says, well, I'll be that surrogate mother. And then Felice cuts him off and says, hey, you know, Wilhelm was forcibly outed here. Let's take this a little more seriously, because Felice being the tiger that she is. But the point that I'm trying to make is he's not condemned by any of his classmates. Nobody has condemned him. And it seems generally the kids in the school are very supportive of him. Everybody knows it's him in the video. They make comments at the dinner table that, yeah, we know that's his room, you know, where the video was shot. So here is Wilhelm telling his mother, I want a normal relationship with this other young man, and I don't see why I can't do that. And the mother says, you know, when I was younger, I also had an unfortunate relationship. That was before I met your father. And so what that sounded to me like was that she was in love with somebody that the crown must not have approved of. And she had to sacrifice that relationship for the crown. Now, granted, when she would have had to make that decision, we're talking what, the 1960s, 1970s, I don't know, 1980s, I don't know when it is she supposedly took the throne, but it was a different era. It was a completely different time. So, yeah, I can see where she would have had to make a sacrifice if the crown didn't approve of whoever it was she was in love with, male, female, whatever. Whereas this is, you know, this is the 2020s. Nobody in Europe cares. Absolutely nobody in Europe cares. So I love the fact that Wilhelm tried to stand his ground and tell his mother what he wanted, but I also understand where she's coming from, even if I don't fall on her side of this argument. Sarah is in her own home preparing for dinner in her own home. But let's look at how she's doing it. The first thing that catches my attention is the fact that the hairpin in her hair is the one that Felice gave her. So, very important detail for Sarah. Now let's pay attention to the fact that the dress she's wearing is the same dress that she wore when she went to that special dinner with all the girls at the school, the boarders. So she comes into the living room to her family. She's like, oh my God, we're eating in the living room. Why can't we eat at the dining room table like normal people? And the mother's like, what? Chill out, relax. She's really not happy about it, but she sits down in the living room with the family. Look at how prissy she looks at this moment. It was on my nerves. I don't mind saying that. So then when she takes the napkin, she starts complaining about the quality of the napkins. My God, girl, dude, get over yourself. You're at home. Get over yourself. So her brother gets all on her about, hey, come on, you know, dude, you're at home. She gets mad, storms out of the room, goes to sit at the dining room table and starts fixing everything up. And Simon follows after her and he's like, dude, what are you going through? And she's like, oh, well, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, people at school piss on you. Wilhelm pisses on you. And August pisses on you. All these people piss on you. And Simon gives the perfect retort. At least I'm not pissing on my own family. And I know who I am. Because he recognizes, as the rest of us do, that she wants to be somebody that she's not. She wants so badly to be part of that other group that even at home she's dressing the part, dressing in the exact same clothes, almost like one of those sociopathic murderers who goes home and like wears the jewelry or the clothes from their murder victim because they're like reliving it in their minds. I just turned Sarah into a psychopath. Not my intention, but you get my meaning. She's trying to relive the scene with her trophies, like a psychopath. And her brother calls her on it. And this scene really, there was a lot of tension between them. And as Sarah's kind of venting on Simon, he's like, you know what? You need to lay off Mom. You need to lay off her because she has made so many sacrifices for us. Sarah says, oh, she should have left Dad sooner. And he's like, what? So we could be homeless and live in a park? Now, what that tells us about Simon is he has a very objective view, a very realistic view of the situation in their home. And he understands and recognizes exactly what sacrifice means. And he has, I've said this before, an excellent role model in his mother. She has demonstrated for him what sacrificing for family is all about. And Simon apparently learned the lesson. And so he puts his sister in check. Now, what I love about this scene is Sarah starts relaxing a little bit. She's emotional, and Simon says to her, you're beautiful. You don't have to put on these airs. You are beautiful. And she said, well, you're beautiful too, which, it's true. Both of them are beautiful. But I love the fact that Simon was able to talk her down, and you see the love between them. This is another excellently written and acted and directed scene. This is the other scene in this particular episode that brings tears to my eyes every time I see it, because this is just beautiful. The relationship between them is beautiful. And Simon recognizes what it is she's after. And I think he's trying to point out to her that this is what you're after. Birds of a feather and all that. Now we have the scene where Sarah goes and meets August in his bedroom, knocks on the door, he opens it, he's surprised to see her, she comes in. And she comes right to the point. I know it was you that did this to Wilhelm. Now, how did she know? Well, if you'll recall back, she saw him put the information on the computer in the library, and of course the Secret Service or the police or whoever it was came and took those computers, took them away. She's not an idiot. You put two and two together. August did it. And so August says, well, what are you going to do? You going to go tell Wilhelm? And she says, well, if you don't care, yes, I will. Then he stops her. August, being the snake that he is, he says, well, wait a minute. If you came to me directly and you didn't go to Wilhelm, what is it you want? Well, we all know what she wants. And she explains to him, I want to be you. And by that, she means I want to be in that elite circle. Because if thinking back to last episode where she went to dinner with all these other girls and she was dressed up and she was in the evening meal with the boarders, and these are the people she wants to be with. These are the people she wants to be. Her ticket to getting there, August, plain and simple. And so she manipulates about as much as he does, and she uses that situation to her advantage. I can understand why she did it. I can't necessarily say I agree with that. I think most of us would not agree. Please tell me what you think. But I love the fact that she asks directly, why did you do this? And August answers every bit as directly, because Wilhelm has everything. And what does Wilhelm have? Well, he has the crown and he has money. He's not broke like August, and he has a lover that actually loves him, something that August doesn't have. And so we see it. The green head of jealousy rears itself. And now we know exactly what August's motives were, if we ever needed to have that explained. I think we always knew. But now we know a little something more about Sarah. Now, I love me some Felice. No secret. I have said in previous videos, I stand by that. Felice is a tiger. Once she gets something in her mind, she is not letting it go. She's in her room, laying on her bed, going through that video, as probably a lot of other people did. But I think her purposes are a little different. She is investigating. She is trying to find some clue inside that video that's going to tell her who actually filmed this. Even her roommate Madison was like, my God, Felice, can't you let it go? And Felice, no, I'm going to find out who did this. And she finds out. And so she goes to Wilhelm's bedroom. She knocks on the door. He doesn't want to talk. He's like, no, we're going to talk. So she goes in and she says, I know who did it. And she tells him it was August. And she shows him the evidence on the film. Wilhelm understandably is furious, and he goes in search of August, and he finds him in the gymnasium. Boy, did he light into him. Oh my God, did he light into him. I think Wilhelm's outrage is justified, because the one person he was really supposed to trust at this school, the one person his brother Eric told him to trust, is the very person that betrayed him. The one guy he went out of his way to help is the guy who betrayed him. There was an awful lot of tension in this scene, and this was just raw emotion between Wilhelm and August. It was the direct conflict that we all knew was coming. And rightfully, Wilhelm feels betrayed. And when I say raw emotion, it makes me think back to the actor Marlon Brando, because virtually every scene that Marlon Brando was ever in, you could feel the raw emotion on the screen. Do you remember the scene from that movie, A Few Good Men? You can't handle the truth. That is this scene right here. That raw energy, that anger that you feel coming right through the lens, right into your living room, or wherever you happen to be watching the video. That's what I got out of this scene. God, I loved it. I said in the intro to this particular video that I think this episode, when compared to even the first episode, this may be the best we get out of this entire season. This scene at the end shows you what excellent directing, excellent acting, and excellent writing will get you when they all come together in perfect synchronicity. This is a perfect scene. The scene where Wilhelm has now told the nation that it was not him in that video, and he now goes to Simon's house to talk to Simon directly and try to work this out. I've seen this scene, I don't know, 5 or 6 times, and I think every single time I either cried or had watery eyes. And I'm not embarrassed to admit it. This is what filmography is all about. This is the situation where Wilhelm and Simon are talking behind Simon's house, and Wilhelm is trying to explain to himself to Simon, and Simon stops him and says, listen, I really hope you work this out. You got a lot on your plate. There's a lot you need to work through. And I absolutely hope that you do that. And I absolutely hope that you find happiness. Now, these are my words, not Simon's. And you're just going to have to do it without me, because I'm not going to be your secret. And Wilhelm tries to plead his case, and Simon just won't have it. And Simon, with my opinion, a great deal of dignity, walks away and leaves a completely heartbroken Wilhelm to head back to the limousine, followed by his security. It's a heartbreaking scene, excellently executed. Just, to me, perfection. Having said that, we then move into the final scene where we have the school celebrating the end of semester. They're getting ready to go home for the holidays. The choir does its singing. Wilhelm listens intently to Simon singing. And as the students are filing out of the chapel and they're all going with their parents to go home, Wilhelm steps aside with Simon and talks to him for a moment and compliments him on his singing. And he says, I hope you have a great Christmas, this, that, and the other. And then they hug. And while they're hugging, Wilhelm whispers those words that Simon previously really wanted to hear. He says, I love you. When they separate, meaning they pull apart from each other, it is now Simon's turn to respond, and he just wishes Wilhelm a happy Christmas and turns and walks away. Wilhelm, again heartbroken, goes into his limousine, sits in the limousine, and we see him all by himself, which, again, I think this is very good scene setting or cinematography, because he's all alone in that limousine by himself, leaving to go back to the palace. I think that right there encapsulates exactly where Wilhelm is, and in his own way, exactly where Simon is. Because as much as we're talking about Wilhelm being heartbroken, Simon's being tortured by this too. Excellent end to an excellent season. And that's our review of episode 6. Hopefully you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed putting it together. And please share your comments down below, because we do read them. Even if we can't respond to every one of them, we absolutely do read all of them, and they matter. I also very much would like to get your feedback on how much you enjoyed our presentation of Season 1, because we're already gearing up for Season 2. We're ready to jump on it. So if you have any suggestions or comments or something you'd like to see us do a little better or a little differently, please, we would like to hear it. And if you'd like to support us, if you'd like to, pat us on the back maybe, please feel free to buy us a cup of coffee. You can find a description in the link below. Until next time, my friends, thank you so much for joining us. We're already looking forward to meeting you again next time. Ciao.